And welcome back to Nothing But Net. Welcome to NBN Magazine's Hooked on Hoops podcast. I'm Patrick Pratt along with my co-host Dinos Trigonis. And right now, our special guest is NBA draft analyst Krysten Peak.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. And what I like about Krysten the most, she's kind of a trailblazer in this space, the first major female to have a respected NBA draft, mock draft.
Nice. Groundbreaking. What a pioneer. Pleasure to have you.
And let's get
I'm
to it,
happy
Krysten.
to be here.
The NBA draft this year, I'm looking at it, it's kind of Cooper Flag,
Ace Bailey. Dylan
Harper, kind of top heavy. Then it kind of tails off. What's your take on this year's draft? How's the depth of it? How's the quality? How's the European element that we haven't really heard from yet? How's it shaping up this year?
I mean, compared to last year, it's a dream scenario for any team that is in the lottery. You know, you mentioned Cooper Flag. Obviously, he's going to be the first one off the board. But if you swing and a miss and you don't get Cooper, then the consolation prizes are just as good. We're talking about Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, who are both at Rutgers, VJ Edgecombe, which Dinos, I know you know very well, the freshman at Baylor, and Jeremiah Fears is sneaking up into that top 5 consideration. Jeremiah is obviously Trey Johnson, one of the most prolific scorers in the SEC. So yes, Cooper, it is the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, but everything after that is still worth making. I mean, the NBA hates when anybody says tanking, making strategic moves to put yourself in a favorable position in this year's draft.
Yeah, Cooper had a very interesting year. He started off kind of slow. He created some question marks. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper played extremely well early. They kind of crept up into the perimeter of that conversation. Cooper Flag kind of slammed the door shut with that tremendous play down the stretch, taking Duke to the Final Four, looking like the number 1 pick that we thought he would be. And Jeremiah Fears, know very well his brother at Michigan State. His dad has a really good soul food restaurant in Chicago. I know his dad very well. He seems to be kind of an interesting person for me because my recollection of him at AZ Compass Prep was more of a volume, streaky shooter, hot and cold. But I know he's had a very big year at Oklahoma. I haven't seen him as much as you have, and I know you have him higher than some other draft guys do. What do you like the most about Jeremiah Fears, and what do you think his value is to the NBA?
Listen, yes, he had a very up and down run in college basketball. I thought he started off very, very hot, which kind of catapulted him into the lottery conversation and forced teams to take a look at him. And then teams started digging and they're just like, oh my gosh, he reclassed up. He reclassified up. So he is one of the youngest players in this draft. And when we look at what he did in the NCAA tournament, and mind you, yes, I understand Oklahoma was not a top team by any means, but you watch what he did against, I think it was Gonzaga, and the way he just manipulated the defense, particularly in the PNR and the pick and roll. And you take that skill set and you give him space and you give him time to develop under any umbrella, under any NBA franchise in their system and their guidance, their coaching staff, he is going to flourish. So I think what most NBA teams see when they see Jeremiah Fears, they see, oh my gosh, is this a budding Trae Young? We cannot pass on this kid and what he projects. I mean, he averaged 17 points, 4.2 assists per game in college. And was he as consistent? Was he as, dominant as Trae Young was? No, but his upside, and because he's so young, and there's nothing that NBA scouts love more than youth, upside, and longevity and projection. And Jeremiah Fears, when you look at him as a primary ball handler, he has all of those characteristics. So that's why we're seeing his name creep up a little inside, you
bring up the Trae Young comparison.
Yes.
I was thinking more Darius Garland. Am I off at all?
No, Darius is great too. Darius is another one where, I saw what he did in his 1 year in college, and then you see him being projected so high. I think he went number 4, number 5 to the Cavs in the year.
Although he didn't have quite the same year as Trae did as a freshman. He had kind of a similar.
And that's Jeremy Fears? Jeremiah Fears?
Brother.
Oh, it's his brother. Okay. Because I was about to say, when Jeremy Fears was in the Bengals All-American camp, every time he scored as a PA announcer, I turned him into Tears for Fears, and I was saying, welcome to this camp. But you're talking about his brother. Okay. We'll say.
Yeah, they are related.
Okay.
I think they got a third brother, too. Yeah, I think they may have a third. Wait. They might have another brother.
Dinos, I am now I've been doing this long enough. You know this. Like, now I'm covering Ryan Hampton, RJ Hampton's little brother, who's a 5-star sophomore, Martre Bagley, the youngest Bagley brother, who was like interrupting my interviews with Marvin and Marcus. Like, he's now becoming, a player in this space. So I know you've been doing this a long time, but now I'm feeling like the fact that I'm seeing these, little brothers come up. Has been
you're going to continue to see that as you continue this. You're going to see that.
Yeah, VJ Edgecombe, I really like too. I saw him a couple times with Baylor. Kind of an explosive, well-built athlete, very explosive, huge upside. I'm not sure he's got the huge size that I think some teams crave, but you can't deny his elite athletic ability, his explosiveness, shoots the ball very well. Big time prospect. He's also a member of Anthony Ricks's Austin Rivers Elite program down there in Florida.
And what VJ has done in terms of his rise from high school prospect to, coming into Baylor and playing with 4 other guards in the backcourt and finding ways to impact the game positively. When Jeremy Roach was sidelined, it was really VJ Edgecombe who blossomed. And I was at the 2 games in Utah where he played against Utah and Baylor. And the biggest knock on his game is his consistency and his 3-point jumper. He went 10 for 16 from 3-point range in 2 games. And every NBA scout that went out there to first see him at Utah, and then they went to Baylor because they wanted to see Yegor Demin as well, was so impressed with his consistent shot making. And that's a testament to his growth. And that's why we're seeing him kind of solidified in that top 5 conversation.
Now, Dylan Harper, a while back there, I think I might have been the first person to compare him to James Harden. Do you see a lot of James Harden in Dylan Harper?
I think Dylan Harper might be the most pro-ready guard in this draft class. And that's saying a lot when you look at Walter Clayton Jr., when you look at all the other 4-year guards. But the positional size, the playmaking, the fact that he is the first player, the first college basketball player in 20 years to post back-to-back 35-plus point games. And that happened in November here in Las Vegas at the Players Eras tournament with numerous NBA scouts and executives there. Yeah, you were there. You saw it. Like that was the jump off point where every NBA team was like, okay, if this is who he is at 18 years old, what can he be in 3 or 4 years in an NBA system? So when we look, yes, Cooper is going to be number 1. It'll be interesting to see how the ping pong balls fall, but I think Dylan Harper is like number 2 on a lot of people's list.
Hey, Pat, a funny side note, when I compared him to James Harden, his father, Ron Harper, the big-time NBA player, he was not too impressed. He felt somewhat insulted. So I was a little caught off guard by that, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, if your son could make 200, 300 million, I'd be more than happy. I'll take it.
I get it. I get both of you. Kirsten, when you mentioned the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, it reminded me of the 98 draft when it was the Tim Duncan sweepstakes. I don't know if you watched the Celtic City. This went on HBO, but in one of the episodes, they had Rick Pitino, and They talked about how it was the Duncan sweepstakes and they just knew they were going to get him. And when they didn't and had to settle for Ron Mercer, it seemed like they just had made him go off to a bad start. But as you're saying, this draft, you don't think that's going to happen, because if you don't get Cooper, there's other guys, like you said, those parting gifts will still be up there.
Yeah, I think that's why there's so many teams that prioritize this draft and next year's draft, because this isn't the Victor Wembanyama draft. And this isn't, Tim Duncan, like you mentioned, who both players oddly ended up with the San Antonio Spurs. But it's not, okay, you are the Spurs, you land Victor Wembanyama, and then 2 and 3, Portland and Charlotte, you get Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller. Like that's significantly different. But in this year's draft, I mean, yes, Cooper is very, very good, and he's very good at a lot of different things. Is he Victor Wembanyama? No, and he knows that. And there's a lot of discrepancies against that. And so it isn't that generational type talent. And so if you swing and miss on Coop, you are still in the running for 3 or 4 good players at 2 through 5. That's the way I see it.
With Cooper is, even though he tries to project that kind of energy, the way he plays, I think he's more suited to be that second or third marquee or all-star guy on a good NBA team versus that first guy. You know what I mean? It just that not a knock on him. It's just he's more, in many ways, a complementary. What he brings to the table is more complementary to a title-winning NBA team than he is for somebody carrying a team like Damian Lillard carried the Trailblazers, or Ben Cheryl's carrying the Magic. You know what I mean? It seems to be more of a complementary skill set that is valuable, but I'm not sure starting in Washington might be the ideal scenario, because we might not see the true Cooper Flag till that second NBA team, possibly.
Well, I'll say this, Utah, Charlotte, Washington, whoever that are crossing their fingers for that 14% chance, that 10.5% chance, that 9% chance at a swing at Coop, like they are going to be thrilled. Like, is he going to be that franchise changing player? Nobody knows. We don't know. He's so young. He's still got room to develop, but what he's shown, he is going to be at the very least a cornerstone player for any NBA team. So if you are the Charlotte Hornets, if you are the Jazz, if you are the Washington Wizards, and you know what's coming next, like Dinos, we know what's coming up next in the next year's draft. And so if you can add Coop, let him develop with the other young players in your team, and just let them feel the physicality of the NBA, the pace, the spacing, and build off that and what's coming in next year's draft. And you're still in a favorable position to land AJ, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, Nate Ament. Then that is the meat of your franchise right there. That is what every NBA team is hoping for.
Well, Krysten, okay. Speak to the whole notion about how it used to be where if a college player is young, like if they're already good, then that's more attractive than a 4-year guy. Now it seems like they want everybody to be old, and with this whole 4 to 6 years now you have in as college eligibility, now the older player is more attractive, where a few years ago the younger player was attractive. So speak to that whole notion.
Well, actually, one second. You wrote an article recently in the Hoop HQ about how scouts are now valuing the more additional years of college to make their evaluation on those guys.
Okay.
Yeah. And listen, at the top of the draft, it is always, always, always going to be the one and done prospect, because there's a lot of value that you can get from a rookie who's 18, 19 years old, and you can develop in their system. And by the time they're in their second contract, they're still young, and you can get X amount of years. Mm-hmm. But when we're looking at late lottery, when we're looking at mid to whatever, the 25s in the first round, and if you are an established team, you want a plug and play guy right away. That's why Neat Clifford is getting a lot of attention, the CSU senior who tested the water last year, who was Mountain West Player of the Year, who was a walking triple-double, who is one of my sleepers in the first round for sure. Like, he is a plug and play guy. Walter Clayton Jr. proved that he belongs on any NBA roster in what he did for Florida, how he marched his way through the NCAA tournament.
I'm surprised, Krysten, he's not higher. I've never seen anybody. I was there for the semifinal game in San Antonio. I've never seen anybody shoot the ball that well in a dome before. There's a lot of good shooters out there. Very few can shoot in a dome. His comfort level shooting in that dome was amazing. I'm surprised.
It was one of the single greatest NCAA
in the top 10 conversation.
Yeah.
But like you said, he would be an absolute steal in the late 20s.
Absolutely. And when we look at like the top 10 top 10 conversation, and I know Jay Will came out on ESPN the day after the national championship, and he said, if I was an NBA organization, I'd take him number 2 in the draft. And it's like, well, that's just not the reality of it. Yes, there is definitely, some value in Walter Clayton Jr. and adding him to a roster right away. But because he's 24 and, that means that outside of Dylan Harper or VJ Edgecombe, like, he's already 5-6 years ahead of them. So how much longevity can you get in him? Like, yes, he can come in right away and contribute to your secondary unit, but what is his long-term projection? And I think that's what NBA teams are looking at.
We saw that
as opposed to like what he did.
With Dalton Connect.
Dalton Connect. Yep. He fell to 16 or whatever it was. Yeah.
17, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Who was the last number 1 pick that was the senior? Anybody?
No idea. Couldn't name him.
Kenyon Martin, 2000.
Wow. Well, speaking of that exact point of these experienced older guys helping good teams, Tayshaun Prince is a great example. 4 years at Kentucky, falls to the Pistons. He's a big-time part of that Motown resurgence with Larry Brown in the 2000s, Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups. He's right there in the 20s. He probably should have went higher, but it actually benefited him going to a winning team because the way he played, he plays winning basketball.
Is he the one that made that block on Reggie Miller?
And Compton Dominguez.
And he locked down Kobe in the finals.
Tayshaun Prince had the longest arms I've ever seen for an 8th grader in high school.
Dinos has stories for days.
If he didn't make it in basketball, he would have been like a Home Depot, what do you call it, shelf stocker. He needs some help with that item up there.
I think that's why we're seeing Janai Broom's name, kind of creep into the first round as well, and his body of work and what he did at Auburn is really appealing. He's got great positional size at 6'10". He showed that he has a budding 3-point jumper and the pick and pop, and he's experienced and he's a plug and play type of guy.
Big and physical and ready for day one, like you said.
He's ready.
I mean, but let's look at someone like a Nerlens Noel. He had high potential. He was long. He had long arms, but never really panned out. What do you think happened?
Well, I think part of the analysis is the personality, the alpha male, if it's there or not. The physicality. Broom is real. I mean, that Auburn, going back to that game, that Auburn-Florida game was as physical a game I've ever seen at a Final Four. It reminded me of a 24-hour fitness run. It was that physical. It was a grown, but now you're seeing guys 25, 26 playing that we never saw before. We never saw that 20 years ago. Those guys were either gone to the NBA, they were in overseas, but the physicality of the play is something that's obviously new there. And like
if we look at Auburn specifically, Chad Baker-Mazara just transferred for his final year to USC, and he's going to be 26 years old. This is a 26-year-old college player that's going to be playing for USC next year against incoming freshmen that are 18 and 19 years old.
After the game, Eric Musselman will be taking Baker-Mazara for shots at the local USC dive bar.
They can hang out with Chris Winkie. Didn't he win a Heisman at 27 years old?
Oh, Chris Winkie. Now let's go to Ace Bailey here. I really like a young Paul George as a comparison for him. Well, do you think that's valid, or do you have some other comparison for him as well?
And before you say that, Krysten, when I saw him last year in high school, I thought he was T-Mac on steroids.
He watches a lot of T-Mac. He watches a lot of Kevin Durant. And in high school, I mean, he was a bucket getter. There were 2 games in the month of December where he posted 40 plus points and 12 plus rebounds and was unbelievable at City of Palms at that event. I think it was like the Jordan Brand Holiday Classic or whatever it was after Christmas, where he just went bananas. And we didn't see that shot creation as much at Rutgers. I think he was someone that had a little tougher time adjusting to the physicality of the college game. He also was dealing with, a couple injuries, in the beginning of the season, but what he projects as an NBA player is unbelievable. And
I also thought too, Krysten, not that it was a negative, but playing with Dylan Harper, who was kind of ball dominant, kind of kept Ace, although he did have his moments. I think he had a 39-point game, I believe, or he had something like that. It didn't allow him to fully kind of show his full bag.
He didn't quite reach his peak, no pun intended.
Or show the ball handling skills, because he was off the ball there too. But I think out of the 3 guys, I would not be surprised if he's the best out of the bunch. He has the potential long-term to be that.
Yeah, I think he has the highest upside too.
I think the 3 teams that are drafting 1, 2, 3, I think are getting hell of a players. And I think, like you said, you could put VJ Edgecombe in that conversation. But to me, he doesn't have optimum size for that. He's about 6'4". He's not 6'6". I'm not sure it really matters because how athletic he really is. You can throw him in there. And then you have a lot of other guys that are we talked about Jeremy Fears, Trey Johnson, Cesar Guerrero, who played for me on my AAU team, Belmont Shore. Went to Fresno State. He was on the staff this year at Texas. He told me Trey Johnson, his work ethic is second to none. He was raving about his work ethic. So he's got a huge upside, although he's far from a finished product as well. And then you have other guys down the road. To talk about some of the other guys in your top 10 you recently talked about on the Babcock podcast with him. I think I have it here. I got bring some guys.
Asa Newell. Who else do we talk about in there? Yeah, give me the list.
Nick Clifford, who I like.
I love Nick.
I think he's a guy who could sneak up with some good workouts. His optimum size, skill level, his athleticism. He seems to be a good kid and very coachable and a good teammate as well for Colorado State. We talked about the big kid from Duke.
Come on, Malawat.
The Sudanese kid, huge upside, although didn't put up the numbers this year. Some people thought that maybe he's more of a long-term guy than he is somebody ready. Con Knuppel, I think, on the right team. Could he be like the other previous Duke guy? What's his name? The lefty. Plays for the Grizzlies or Clippers. The lefty, 6'7". Duke, with the Duke. The shooter. He's known one of the best shooters of the NBA. What's his name? He reminds me a little bit of him. The lefty, man. Yeah, he's still in the league. He plays for he's on his 3rd or 4th team. He played for the
Clippers. You're talking about Luke Kennard.
Luke Kennard. I think he can play like a Luke Kennard role in the NBA. Although I think he might be a little more agile than Luke Kennard. What were your thoughts on Con Knuppel?
I thought, this was a perfect season if you want to be a one and done prospect for Con Knuppel. Like everything that could have gone right for him at Duke absolutely went right. And that doesn't happen by happenstance. Like he put the work in. He's a very, very tough player. He's a very, very smart shooter, which we saw time and time again, with other players, because you have to think like Duke really didn't have a true point guard. And so when you don't have that person facilitating all the time, like you gotta kind of the ebb and flow of the game. And Con on several occasions stepped up and was the knockdown shooter. And one in particular was I was at the Duke North Carolina game at Duke, and Cooper had a great game. Kahn had a great game. And John Shire at the press conference afterwards, he was just like, listen, our freshmen are not playing like freshmen. Yes, they were freshmen when they joined this team, but as the season has progressed, they have become leaders. They have become upperclassmen, and that is what you want in development at any time when you have a first-year player. And it wasn't just him that said that. It was Calvin Sampson in the Final Four that echoed that. And he said, Duke no longer have freshman players. Those players are no longer freshman leaders. They were freshmen at the beginning of the season. They became upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors during conference play. And now they are leading their team through the NCAA tournament. So that's a testament to Kahn. That's a testament to Coop, and just what John Shire is building at Duke.
Yeah, what I like about Kahn too, he's well built for a big wing, but I like his high characters, his high IQ. I really didn't know much about him, but I think I saw him once or twice before I invited him to my camp, my Pangos All-American camp. He was great there. But I like his confidence, his ability to make shots, his ability just to make plays. I think it's very little downside with him. With the high character,
he's a smart player.
Well, no matter how much they develop as freshmen, if they would have faced Bobby Knight, he would have looked at him and said, they're still freshmen. Let's get them.
Hey, Kristen, 2 years ago, I started my camp in Europe, and we had 55 kids there from 13 different countries. One of them was a kid from France that I didn't know much about, and Noah Penda, who later was the MVP of that camp, and is projected by a lot of people to get into the first round here. And I think he played in maybe the second division in France. I'll give you a quick story at the camp. He reminded me a little bit of Dylan Brooks, body-wise, the way he was built, the way he moved. First day at camp, I look at Ronnie Flores. I said, Ronnie, what do you think? He says, he's okay. Right? By the second day of the camp, he was doing it all like Dylan Brooks. He was rebounding, defending, scoring, finishing, making plays. I said, Ronnie, who's the MVP of the camp? He said, Noah Penda. So he had a 24-hour reversal of fortune. So what do you know about? I don't think you've seen him play in person yet. What do you know about him? What are you hearing from NBA people about it? Where he's going to fall? What range or along those lines?
I think so. I've called a few of his games for the NBA app on for the French league, the Baltic league that he was in, and then I also called the All-Star, the Young Stars All-Star game in France. So I was able to see him play there. And he was fantastic. He was the MVP of that game. Great size. I think he is doing himself a lot of favors playing over in France against other grown men. And the trend that we've seen the last 2 or 3 years is we see these players with upside, with length and upside, and just kind of creep up in to the lottery. We saw with Bilal Coulibaly, obviously during Victor Wembanyama's year. We saw it last year with reshaping, and he went all the way to number 1 after, just being so at Nike Hoop Summit the year before. And so I think NBA teams, they like the development of that NBL B League or MB, whatever it is, the Baltic League that they have over in France, and how they're able to develop the younger players. And that's why we're seeing more value of players in that league kind of creep up. And listen, we cannot discredit what Nolan Traore is doing in the last 4 games late in the season. Because remember, they're still playing, and Nolan Traore has kind of fallen off. But the fact the last 3 games, he's now averaging 16 points, shooting 40% from 3, the biggest knock on his game. And so the fact that these players are able to play late into May, early June gives ample time for scouts to reevaluate them. And it helps their case in most cases in the last few years.
Well, Kirsten, I just wanted to give you some more history and all of the fans out there. This jersey I'm wearing is from the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, David Thompson, who's probably the best ACC player ever. If you ever look him up, a 6'4" guard. Actually, he was a small forward in college, and he had a 45-inch vertical. ABA and NBA drafted him. He chose the ABA. Rookie of the year in the ABA, and then they folded and he went to the NBA. So
For the Nuggets, long-term Denver Nuggets. A side note for Penda, and you probably know this, knowing your knowledge of the foreign scene, he's got a younger brother named Swan Penda, who's supposed to be better than him at the same stage.
Better. Yep.
And
I heard that as well.
He's supposed to come to my Euro camp in August. I'll be able to see him there.
Where is it, Dinos? Maybe I'll come over.
Athens. You got to come. We got to get you on. You know the best thing about the Euro camp? We end on a Thursday because the next day on Friday at 5 a.m., I'm on the 5 a.m. flight to Mykonos for the weekend.
You know what? Do you know a funny story? I ran marathons once upon a time, and I ran a marathon in every continent. And my Europe leg was the Athens Classic Marathon, where I started in the town of Marathon, and then we finished in the old Olympic Stadium in Athens. So that was my Europe leg. So I ran the Athens
Classic. There's a true city in right north of Athens called Marathon.
Okay. That's where the marathon comes from. Okay.
It is.
It is. Hey, Krysten, great having you on the show. Gave us a great ton of insight. I really like what you're doing with NBA TV and keep doing it.
And Kirsten, I want you to look up Sister Sledge. They had a song called I Like to See You Reach Your Peak and Feel the Beat that gets to me. You might want to use it as your ringtone.
Okay, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yes.
At Pangos.
Yes.
All right, everyone. And thank you for watching. This has been another segment of NBN Magazine's Hooked on Hoops. I'm Patrick Pratt, Dinos Trigonis, co-host, and we'll see you next time.